Hi there, this is Jen, and thanks for joining me today. Today we are using the super cool Shaker Birthday Cupcake die set, and I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can use this, and we'll also go over some little tips and tricks for making shakers. So there are several different pieces to this die set, and like a lot of the Pixi Dust Designs dies, it can be used several different ways, and so I'm just going over the different pieces that are in the main cupcake, and these can be layered. You can make a shaker out of the top and the bottom of the cupcake. So these two pieces of paper right here is the outline, and then the base for the shaker, and then the same thing with the cupcake liner or the cupcake paper. You've got several different ways that you can use this on the cupcake, either as a shaker or it's not as a shaker. You can use the kind of slatted decorative piece by itself, or you can stack it on top of the other pieces, which is what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be making this one. I'm going to make a shaker out of both the top and the bottom. And included in this die set is the candle, and the candle has three pieces. You've got the main candle piece, and then the wick. There's like a wick and then a smaller portion that you can add a different color. There is also a little cherry for the cherry on top of the cupcake, and then this other die set that is like a miniature little cupcake for decorative purposes. And the long die is for the box, if you're going to use the cupcake with the box. And again, one of the great things about Pixi Dust Designs is you've got all the lines, all the score lines. You know exactly where to fold. This is super easy to put together. It might not look much like a box, but to create the box, you're going to need a front and a back cupcake. So the front and the back, which is going to enclose the box, is going to be a cupcake shape, one of the cupcake shapes. So you can decorate both the front and the back. I did not. I decorated just the front, and then the back was just the form of the outline of the cupcake. But this is how the box goes together. Really super easy. And then you would just add a little bit of glue to the front. I'll go ahead and show that portion, but I wanted to show one of the cupcakes that I've already put together. So for this one, I added foam on all of the slats, so there's a different little bit of shaker bits for each slat, and then I added some different little flowers and added that candle. And so this is the box. Personally, I think it's better to use the color of the box that's kind of the same color as the cupcake. That way it kind of blends in a little bit more. But to put together the box, you're just going to add glue to those three sides, and then add your cupcake that's going to be in the front. And so that's going to be this decorative one. And then you're just going to pop that on there, and then use a bone folder or some other tool to kind of push down those edges to make sure they adhere really nicely. And you kind of have to experiment a little bit to see what works for you. But to keep the flap shut on the top, the sides have to be a certain distance apart. I didn't get it correct on this one, but I can still push the lid down into the box a little bit and have it stay. You can always cut the top off of the box and just have it be an open container without a lid, but I wanted to show that one real quick, and then we're going to get into making this shaker cupcake. So I've got all my pieces. I'm going to go ahead and adhere the solid piece that's going to be basically in the background. So that's going to be the piece that you're going to see behind the shaker mix. And so since this has two different shakers that I'm going to go ahead and create, and you can create these as shakers, you can create just the bottom as a shaker like I did in the first cupcake that I showed, or like this one that we're doing, we're going to do two shakers. But for the acetate, I found it easier to just go ahead and line up the acetate with my die cut and use my scissors to cut around. So I'm just kind of holding my scissors at a little bit of an angle so that I cut a little bit underneath and there's not any acetate hanging off of the edges. And then for this one, I'm going to go ahead and add the glue, and then I'm going to just put it against my hand so that I don't have glue seeping out underneath and getting on the acetate and getting that acetate dirty. And then I'm just going to line that piece of acetate up. And if you get any glue onto the acetate, you can take a cloth and kind of rub it in a circular motion, or a baby wipe, and then with a dry cloth, and that should take care of that. So we're going to go ahead and add some glue to kind of that outline piece. This isn't really necessary, but in case I don't get this on straight, you're not going to be able to see the orange behind the shaker piece. And then I am adding some 1/8 inch foam, and I started out adding those 3 little pieces of foam in the middle, but before I do my shaker, I end up taking those out just because I didn't have any really small shaker pieces, and so I wanted to make sure that I had enough room in there for those shaker pieces to move around. And then once we've got the bottom of the cupcake, we're going to go ahead and move towards the top of the cupcake and do like the frosting shaker. So I again added a little bit of liquid adhesive, and then I am adding that acetate. And then I'm going to take some more 1/8 inch foam, and this time I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing piece for the foam. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to work around the curves of this cupcake top and get that foam to be a little more pliable. It is very difficult to do this with the backing still on, and so this works pretty well with, I'm just moving it around the circles and then pushing down with my thumb where the curve is, and then kind of moving the foam back and forth. And then if there's any excess, I'll go ahead and snip that off. And then to make sure that the little bits don't stick to that side of the sticky side of the foam, I'm going to go ahead and take my brush, a paintbrush, and dip it into some of the anti-static powder that's just excess from the little container that I have it in, and I'm just going to rub along the edges so that the sequins don't get stuck on the sides and not move around. And so for this, for the top piece of the shaker, I'm going to go ahead and add the sequins directly onto the backer piece, and then I'm going to go over top with the actual shaker piece. And if you happen to have any gaps in the foam, and especially if you have tiny little shaker bits, you can always take a little bit of liquid glue and just take a little bit of that glue and fill in any gaps that you might have, and that will kind of seal up those sides so that you don't have to redo the whole thing. What I'm doing now is I'm taking my pokey tool, kind of pushing the foam in so that it does not show outside of the cupcake. And then for the bottom of the cupcake, I'm going to add the shaker pieces to the well, my shaker well first, and then I'm going to put the backing on the top. I switch back and forth, whatever is easiest to do. The bigger space, it was easier to put the acetate on top, but this I found was easier. The bottom of the cupcake is to put it in the well first and then put the back piece of the shaker on. And then I added a little bit of foam to the top of the cupcake, and then liquid adhesive on the bottom, because that liquid adhesive is going to be flush with the bottom of the cupcake, and then the foam will make it flush with the rest of the cupcake. And so this little piece is going to go on the box that you saw earlier. So I've already adhered the front of the cupcake, and believe it or not, I'm going to add this to a card base, and so I have added some adhesive to the 3 sides of the back. So I didn't put a back on it because the back is going to be up against the card, and so I'm just going to go ahead and add that adhesive and push it onto my card. And if you don't like the flap for the box, you want it open, you can definitely cut the flap off. I think if I were going to do this again on a card, I would cut the box panel in half so that it's not as thick as it is right now. But I used a sentiment from the Pixi Dust Designs Birthday Sentiments die cut. I used the candle from this set that I'm using, which is the Shaker Birthday Cupcake, and then the number 2 from my stash. And then another variation of that is to just put the cupcake flat against a card, and then the original design that I did with the box with the panel in the front and the back. And I ended up taking the bow off. I added the bow kind of in the middle, and then I was like, I don't know if I like that, so I took the bow off. But here are all 3 of the ideas. I'm sure you can come up with lots more ideas for this die set. It is super versatile, and you can use it for so many things. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like it or find it informative, I would love a thumbs up. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe for more fabulous videos from the design team. And that is it for me today. Thanks so much for spending some time with me, and I hope to see you next time.